Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling.
Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Dubs podcast. I'm your host, Easton Doyle, and today we have on another special guest. He was on pretty recently, but we got him back on because he is the king of futures. So we had to get on T-Fly Picks again. So we got Tanner at T-Fly Picks on Twitter. Tanner, how are you?
Not doing too bad. It's appreciate you guys having me back. I know today's episode is gonna be around NFL futures. So ready to. I'm just itching for football season. On last week we talked. It's my off season right now, and I'm so ready for the season to kick off. You know, they're in spring training. I'm basically in spring training, looking up lines, getting all my preseason research done. So just excited to get things kicked off here in a few weeks.
Football is so fun. I love following sports all year. I follow baseball and basketball, and I'm a golfer, so I'm following everything pretty closely. But God, football it's another level. It just is so exciting. You get those, the 4 or 5 days a week where you're just absolutely locked in on a couple of games, and then Sunday comes around and you're like, well, I got nothing else to do. I'm watching football today. That's what it comes down to. I feel like. So I'm just excited as you are. I think training camp brings a lot of headlines, and sometimes you got to kind of fight through the muck to figure out some good bets to place. But I think that's why the show is going to be so good, because we're going to dive into some good futures, some division winners, some conference champs, some fun stuff for people to start betting on. Let's just start out. Where did you see the most value in NFL futures as you kind of started to build your slate in July and into early August?
Yeah. So like I said, right now is the time of the year where I'm placing my next big future. So, and I'm trying to, in terms of our last convo, I'm definitely trying to include the Super Bowl in that, as well as I've really personally been loving the division winners. Like, there is just some divisions I think are pretty clear cut, but then there's some that I'm really trying to stay away from. And there's a few teams I think are getting undervalued for the situation they're in. Like, one big one that I know I'm on, as well as a lot of other handicappers, is like the Vikings to win the NFC North. That's a huge one at plus 300. So for me, the value really this year is a lot in the division winners. I'm still trying to lock down my Super Bowl pick. There's a team or two that I do like, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but really loving some of the division winners, which we'll dive into a little bit more. And then for AP Player of the Year, there's just some question marks when it comes to AP Player of the Year, for Offensive Player of the Year, and then also Comeback Player of the Year. That's like two that I'm willing. It's a little bit interesting this year because I think there's so much value on Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey this year. If they can stay healthy, those are two guys I'm really eyeing for Comeback Player of the Year. I think McCaffrey's at plus like 800, and then Offensive Player of the Year, what's he sitting at today? He's sitting at plus 2,500. So McCaffrey and Henry, Henry's sitting at plus 1,600 for Offensive Player of the Year, and then plus 400 for Comeback Player of the Year. So there's a lot of value out there. Super Bowl is going to be a little bit tricky this year. I think there's a lot of really good teams, but I've been really, really loving the division winners, and then kind of just taking my shot on the AP Offensive Player of the Year and then Comeback Player of the Year.
I feel like McCaffrey and Henry are two really interesting cases because, they have the seasons that we've seen where they're unique. Derrick Henry can rush for 2,000 yards and it wouldn't be that crazy, I think, to a lot of us. And I think McCaffrey going for 1,000 and 1,000 is another one of those years that really sticks out that not a lot of guys can do, but he is that kind of guy. He's just such a unique player. And I think in that new offense, you get Baker, and I think Baker's better than Sam Darnold personally, and I think Baker's better than a lot of the quarterbacks that McCaffrey's had over the years, Teddy Bridgewater, some of the guys that maybe weren't really bringing much to the table. I think the Baker talk has really been an interesting topic because of how complicated the Browns situation is, but I think it brings a lot to McCaffrey's value for sure. And again, if you're getting him at what you said plus 800 and then plus 2,500, it's like, well, those seem like easy ones to hop on and just, hey, believe in, if he stays healthy for 16, 17 games, you're looking at really, really good value and a good chance to cash in from either one of those two bets. I'd love to dive into division winners because I think the divisions are, again, really interesting in terms of I feel like every year we see a lot of teams go worst to first, and so then you're seeing that value be really high going into the season. You mentioned the Vikings at plus 300. We saw the Packers lose a lot of guys. They lost a lot of talent. Rodgers is getting older. Obviously, he's won back-to-back MVPs, so you still got to believe in that guy. But if anything goes wrong with that team, it feels like someone like the Vikings who could just sneak up and compete. You said the Vikings already, but do you have a couple others that you'd like to throw out and kind of talk about in terms of value bets, or even just the top teams that you think are going to run away with the division?
Yeah, I would say the top teams that I think are going to run away, and like I really believe in the Bills, but I mean that's pretty chalky. I'll give you some of my chalk, and then some of the divisions I really haven't made my decision on. So AFC East, love the Bills. Like I just don't think the Dolphins have made a ton of improvements. I see people talking about their offensive weapons being top 5 in the NFL. I think it's a little bit of a stretch, even though you have Jalen and then Tyreek. I still have questions around their run game. They brought in Raheem Mostert in the offseason. Like, the Dolphins are going to be interesting this year. Brand new coach, brand new system, bringing the 49ers offense over, which that 49ers offense was built on, play action, run the football. And I don't even who's their running back? Gaskins, Mostert. Like, I just don't know if their run game is going to be effective enough this year to really open up the entire. I'm blanking on their new head coach's name, young guy, but
Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel.
To really open up his playbook. Like, I think he's a very smart guy. Like, I was watching, he was on a podcast with McAfee, and he's an Ivy League dude, super smart. So he's gonna adjust. He's gonna form the offense to his team's strengths. But I just don't remember any 49ers teams that had a Waddle and a Tyreek without, and Gesicki. I don't know if Gesicki's up to par with Kittle. It's just a lot of different pieces. We'll see how he forms it around there, but. Patriots have still ways to go. Just top to bottom, their roster talent isn't great. I don't think Bill's been doing a great job personally of managing this roster. I don't know who he's going to throw it to still. I do love their tight ends with Jonnu and then Henry. But I think there's a big gap in between the Bills roster compared to everyone else in their division, which, I mean, the line says it for itself, minus 220. There's a reason they're sitting at that. But I really do love if you're looking to build a mega big parlay with some of these, throw the Bills in there. Next one's AFC North. I was literally on an hour-long phone call with my buddy this morning talking about this. He's a Bengals fan, but he was trying to pick the winner for his own division. And he was like, I'm thinking Ravens is what he thought. And that's coming from a Bengals fan that I watched cry when they lost the Super Bowl last year. So he's a diehard. He's committed, and he's even saying the Ravens. Right before I hopped on this, he's like, shit, man, I just looked at the Browns schedule, and with Watson now coming back after 6 games, their schedule's pretty easy because a lot of people don't understand the scheduling and how the scheduling works with the NFL. You play your division people twice, you get matched up with another division, and you play every single one from that. But then the other one, based on what you were seeded at last year, that's who you're playing this year. So when you have the Ravens, the Bengals, Bengals won the Ravens is being matched, I believe, with the 3rd and 3rd. So who they're playing on their other schedule games is really important, and so are the Browns. And their schedules are not that tough. I think the Bengals have the hardest schedule in that division. So right now, I haven't made a clear decision. I'm leaning towards the Ravens just because how banged up they were last year. Half their starters were gone. Offense and defense, and then you got Lamar Jackson playing on a contract year. So like I said, my last one, extra motivation. Where is it coming from? What happened last year versus this year? Those are the little things I like. So I like the Ravens. I don't want to dive in too much on all these and take up the whole time, but
I love it. I love it. Keep going.
A couple other ones I'm liking. I like the Colts a lot. I live in Nashville. All my friends are Colts fans. Once again, it's just total. The way I evaluate this is, what does your roster look top to bottom? I'm not skipping a single position. What do your safeties look like? What's your defense, D-line, linebackers, O-line? And when it comes to the Titans, it's losing. They basically said, hey, all right, we're going to bring in Traylon Burks, and he's going to be a one-for-one replacement for A.J. Brown. I don't think that's happening. And we watched how the Titans ended the season last year, and just it could be one of those things hey, it kicks them in the ass, but I just don't think Tannehill's that guy. I do think Derrick Henry is going to have a massive year, but I think when you look at they're also same thing we just talked about scheduling. They won the division last year, so they're in that 1-1. They're playing the other division's best player in those other games. So it's like the Colts, I think, great O-line. JT's going to have a massive year. I'm interested to see if they make a move for OBJ. I think that would be the perfect fit for him because their wide receivers are a little lacking. But I think with their offense and just like hearing how the Colts are reacting to Matt Ryan, him being like a father figure, like kind of laying the hammer down, like really pushing the Colts and like this offense just to be on top of their shit. Like I think they're really scary, solid players on defense with not Darius Leonard. I don't know if you saw him change his name, but Shaquille Leonard is his new name. I don't know if you saw that update.
Oh, I did not see that. No.
Yeah, he changed his name this offseason. So he's going now by Shaquille Leonard. Look out for him, middle linebacker for him. But yeah, I like the Colts, and they're sitting at minus 115. So they're saying like that's almost even money. I really do like the Colts. I think the Titans will keep it close, but I don't really have to talk about the Jaguars or Texans. Those two are kind of out of the picture in my opinion.
I know. I agree. I think the Colts are a really interesting one because Matt Ryan for Carson Wentz, it seems like you're bringing a lot more leadership into the building and a little bit less controversy. I know Carson Wentz doesn't really seem to get along with locker rooms very well, and it doesn't seem like guys always love him that much. I think it's going to be a really interesting fit with Washington with how many issues they're already dealing with kind of within the organization. So he just seems like another issue within the organization. So that's definitely, Commanders are definitely a team I'm staying away from. But I do love that Colts pick. I think at even money, it's like, again, you're going against the Titans. It's a 50% chance to win the division. Unless the Jags have another one of those 2017 years, but the defense isn't there. It's a new head coach. Trevor Lawrence in his second year. It just doesn't seem like anything like that's going to happen. And the Texans are a trash franchise that have no chance to compete for the next 5 years. I mean, I'm a Stanford guy originally. I grew up around Stanford. I think Davis Mills was always talked about as being like the next guy. And then, he's good. I think he's good. He's a serviceable quarterback. But the fact that there was so much talk about Jimmy G ending up there at some point this offseason, it feels like that team probably won't compete very much. All right, let's dive in a little bit deeper, maybe go into some players. I know you mentioned Offensive Player of the Year. I know you mentioned Comeback Player of the Year. What about MVP? Do we have some MVP picks? Are there some guys maybe you're looking at? Maybe some dark horses that, maybe you'll just sprinkle a little bit of, pizza money on, or are you kind of staying away from the MVP conversation?
MVP, I got two guys that I'm liking. I'll throw this out there. I didn't get the MVP correct last year. The year before, though, I called Aaron Rodgers' bounce back year. I told my dad to go put 500 on him when he was in Vegas for me. He didn't do it. I still got 100 in on him, but I got him at like a 15-1. I got the text to prove it on that one too. Still got him at 100-1 or for $100 and made like 1,500 on it, but could have made a lot more. Honestly, for this year, like it's got like I think there's two that just really stick out to me: Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. Like Allen is in the same situation. Like his running ability and the fact they don't have a run game. Like this dude's gonna throw for thousands of yards and then probably gonna run for 700 to 1,000. Like I think he's gonna compete with Lamar Jackson for the most rushing yards from a quarterback. And yet he's going to double up Lamar Jackson in his passing yards. That with them being the favorite to win the Super Bowl, I'm leaning towards Bills as being my pick. Just throwing that out there now. I think they just have everything that they really need outside of a solid run game. But at the same time, you can say, okay, yeah, they don't have like a dominant running back, but like they have Josh Allen, which kind of helps with that. Like he runs the ball. They do a lot of QB design runs. He scores the football a ton in the red zone by just running in, or every time they're in the red zone, it feels like he either runs it in or passes it in. So, like, I don't know. I just think like they're going to have a great season. He's going to ball out. And correct me if I'm wrong. Like I can't believe I'm blanking on this. The decision's made after the end of the regular season. It's not playoffs are not included. Yeah.
No.
So it's like
not included.
Yeah. So it's like they're going to have a great season. You need to have a player on a 10+ win team, most likely, to have this. I think, the Bills, talk about their division, easily going to surpass the 10-win mark, probably getting up to the 12, 13, maybe even 14 since they're 17 games. Added Von Miller. So I really like Josh Allen. Plus 700, he is the favorite to win it, so it makes sense. I mean, if you have your Super Bowl favorite, you're most likely going to have the MVP be on their team as the quarterback. So it makes sense why he's there. And then the other two favorites between him and Herbert are Mahomes and Tom Brady. I think they're both going to have really good years. They're never not, but I think Herbert's in that special division where if he can get the Chargers out of that division and win 11, 12 games with the Chargers, he's another guy that just is going to have insane statistics. Like, I know Mahomes and Brady are like, it's just like, I don't know why those two guys are sticking out to me because one, they're younger. They have a little bit more of appeal to, I think, the fan base. Mahomes is young too, but like he's, I don't know. I feel like Mahomes has already played like a 15-year career in the like 5-6 year we've had him just because how much he's already accomplished. So like, I don't know if you can see a Justin Herbert that leads the Chargers out of their insane division. Like, I think he's also a key candidate. He runs the ball a little bit. He has a hyper aggressive coach. So I think that also plays into helping him a little bit because they're going to take more chances to go for on like fourth down, fourth and short to get you in a touchdown range rather than kick. He hates kicking field goals. So if you hate kicking field goals and you're in that range and you get the first down, like just a little bit more opportunities to score the football for Herbert. He had a great last 2 years, and I think this might be their really breakout year. They shored up that defense. I think they're going to get the ball back a little bit better too. Another big thing is, where you're getting possession of the ball. Like Chargers got scored on, giving up long drives. They've added like Khalil Mack. I think they have a really solid returning defense. The division's just so tough. There's two divisions this year that I'm glad my team doesn't play in: AFC West and then the NFC West. Both are death traps. But I do like Herbert. I like Herbert and Allen would be my MVPs if I had to pick two.
I think what you're mentioning with Herbert's really important too. I think that defense aspect is it definitely feeds in. I mean, when you look at the Bills, it's like the Bills are loaded on defense. The Chargers, you mentioned Khalil Mack, obviously. They also got J.C. Jackson, right? So you're looking at a guy that's a pick machine. So you get the ball. He has another good year where he has 6-7 picks, and you're looking at a team that's maybe all of those come on the right side of the 50, and you get short fields for Herbert, and again, no field goals. They love to throw the ball. He's got a crazy arm. He's got a great running back that can kind of help that, again, balance maybe a little bit of the run game, but he's also, Eckler's such a good pass catcher. It just seems like such a, an easy little dump off where it's just, again, more stats, more yards. And I think one thing that kind of I was thinking about, maybe not before, but kind of as you were talking, is that division is so elite. If he comes out, like you said, if they end up winning the division, but also I feel like we're going to see a lot of shootouts. I feel like, we see Chargers Chiefs. We could see some very high scores. Broncos Chargers with Russell Wilson now. It's like two electric offenses going at each other. And even with the Raiders, I mean, God, I think Derek Carr could be a sneaky dark horse for MVP if, with the mix of Devontae and Waller and Josh McDaniels coming in, new head coach, new offense. You just are loaded across the board on those four offenses are maybe, top four of the top four in the NFL right now. So it's just going to make for a really fun year, but I think he'll be in the conversation. There's no way Herbert's not in the conversation if he stays healthy. And Josh Allen he's a freak. I mean, he's an absolute freak of nature. He can do anything at any time. I think the only issue is that he may be in a lot of blowouts. I think what we saw last year where they played the Jets and they just absolutely blow him out. And then, even against the Dolphins, hopefully the Dolphins are a little bit better. So it makes the matchups a little bit kind of more interesting. But I feel like he lost out on some things last year because they were winning by so much and they would get to a point in the game where they didn't need to do a lot with Josh Allen. I think they have improved the run game. They drafted the Dalvin Cook's brother, James Cook out of Georgia, which he's a really good pass catcher, which could be a really interesting kind of fit. I think elevating Gabe Davis, up to kind of that second receiver spot is going to be, I think, a really good thing for that team because he brings a lot more than I think Emmanuel Sanders was bringing. And Cole Beasley he's a slot guy, so you're not really thinking of him as much of a threat on the outside. I think that's going to be honestly, those are two of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. Actually, they were actually my two fantasy quarterbacks on my 2 QB team last year, which was dominant. I mean, completely unfair because they were two of the best guys in the NFL. But I think this could be their year. All right, I'm going to throw out a name. You can just shut me down immediately, but this is my guy, Trey Lance. What do we think? Is it
To
too
win
early?
MVP?
Is it too
To
early?
win MVP?
Yeah, to
Yeah.
win MVP. Come on.
Yeah, it's way too early. Way too early. I mean, I would say he gets the benefits of playing under Shanahan. Like he's gonna have. I just haven't seen a Kyle Shanahan offense like feature a quarterback. Like they love to run the ball. Like Jimmy, when he was running the ship, he got his opportunities. Missed them on a couple opportunities, missed some deep balls. This year, the Rams, when they were in the Super Bowl, missed them over the middle. Like I don't know. Like they set up, they leverage the run game to set up the pass game. Like if he comes in and goes off, I could see it being close with like an Allen. Like I could see him getting top 3 to 5, but like what I'd have to see from him would be a lot. Like
Insane.
I don't know. That's
Insane.
just a lot for year one.
Yeah, no, and I think that's true. I like to think that, after, Mahomes had his year off, comes in that first year, lights up the league, wins MVP. Lamar Jackson,
Yeah.
slow start in kind of that first season. I only think he played 6 or 7 games, comes in the next year, wins MVP. So I'm just like, running quarterback, dude's a crazy athlete. He's got so much talent on the outside. I mean, with Debo now signing his deal, Ayuk, I guess, has just looked like a star in training camp. Kittle is Kittle. I mean, he's going to be in as good a shape as he's ever been every offseason because he works harder than almost anybody in the league. And I think what they've done in the running back room, obviously we lost Mostert, but he really hasn't been a part of the team for the last 2 years because of all the injuries. So, I think a Mitchell is a really good piece because I think it'll maybe make Trey's running ability really interesting. I think the O-line is going to be kind of a struggle this year. I think they've really tried to rebuild the interior. I know we have Trent. Trent's the best O-lineman. There's a reason he's in the Madden, the 99 club on Madden, right? He's an absolute dog, but it's the rest that are just kind of up in the air. I mean, they're trying to throw Aaron Banks at left guard. They're trying to throw some random guy, Jake Brendel, at center right now, and they got a guy they drafted in like the 5th round as a tackle playing guard. So it's going to be a really interesting thing to see how that works out. But maybe that gives him more ability to move outside the pocket. We see some kind of crazy scrambles or crazy throws that I don't know. I'm a big Trey Lance fan. I'm a big Niners guy, and I've been on him since they drafted him, and all this hate has just been awful for me to listen to because I'm like, you're watching Jimmy, like what we've had for the last few years, and he's been good. He's been solid, but solid does not win you a Super Bowl, as we've seen. I mean, we've gotten close a couple of times, and we've fallen just a little bit short.
Jared Goff, the Rams. I mean, they could get to the Super Bowl, could never win it with Jared, so they realized that and said, "Hey, we got to get him out and bring someone else." Didn't go the rookie route, but they got a vet. But no, I like Trey. And like talking about his weapons, you're right. Like Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, run game's good. You got a genius offensive minded coach.
Yeah.
I think I think in the future, I don't know. I've never seen anyone do what Patrick Mahomes did in his first year, and I don't think Trey Lance is going to be the second guy I've seen do it. So I do think he's going to be good. I think he's going to come in, perform well. He's going to have his rookie moments, probably throw some stupid decisions, have some bad picks, but I do think they'll have a solid year. And we got to figure out what's happening with Jimmy.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's going to be. I've heard a little bit of he's there, he's kind of on the side. I think everybody just wants him gone. I think it's a really awkward situation, and I think the more they've talked about it, the more it's like, yeah, he's not going to be here. Like he's gone. Like anybody that thinks he's got a chance to stay has been out of their mind for a while now, because Kyle, the plan has been in place. I think a lot of the Niners fans were frustrated last year because it felt like Trey was bringing a different element and Jimmy wasn't really doing. Jimmy was winning games because the team was winning games, not because he was winning the games for him. So Jimmy gave us a great couple of years. I'm ready to see him go. I would just, if Trey, I don't think he'll be Mahomes. I don't think he'll be Lamar, but if there's some way that he's a little bit of a blend of the two, who knows? Who knows? If he's got the running ability and the passing ability and somehow mixes it together and has some crazy breakout year, It's not going to happen, probably not, but there's a chance I still sprinkle money on it just because I love the guy.
Yeah, hey, understandable. Yeah, hey, you guys, they have a bright future. We'll see. We'll see how the season pans out, though. We'll see.
Yeah, it should be a fun year. All right, I'm gonna go off kind of a little bit off script. We'll go, a little bit maybe away from actual bets, and maybe just a little bit more help in terms of helping bettors kind of decide what they're wanting to do with futures. I know you've built some crazy futures parlays in the past. What are some tips you have for building a futures parlay? I know you kind of went over it a little bit in the last show we had you on, but maybe a little bit of a different audience when we're going over just specifically NFL. So in terms of building maybe an NFL futures parlay or just a futures parlay in general, kind of what are you looking at? And again, how can people kind of figure it out maybe a little bit better?
Yeah, I would say like if you for me, if I'm doing my big ones with multi-sport, it's a little different. But if I have several solely NFL future parlays, and most of them are just division winners combined together, little here or there. But for me, in order for me just to do a sole NFL future, like I'm really only doing the ones I'm super confident in. Like I can tell you right now, I'm not including my future division winners. I'm not including anyone from the AFC North, and I'm not taking anyone from the NFC or excuse me NFC West and the AFC North. Two divisions that are just like you don't know who's coming out. Like the Raiders we just talked about, they're plus 700.
Yeah.
They can win that division. Throwing that
Easily.
out there, I'm not saying I'm picking them, but at plus 700 for that team, their roster, I mean, that's value in the world of value. But for me personally, like just building out these futures, it's like just find a way to justify your logic. Like that's all we can do. Like no one can realistically predict the future. Find things that you're confident in, have a reason, understand the possibilities of how it could lose. If you're doing the division winners, like I said, what I recommend, look to see what they finished out last year in the division because it's really important for their scheduling this year. And then two, go like comb through their schedules. Like you have to understand like who do they play when, how many back-to-backs do they have, and like when it comes to me and like doing for me like future win totals over and under, what I do instead of doing like hey, one game each, like, hey, they're winning this game, losing, winning, losing. I'll bulk like 4 or 2 games together and be like, okay, realistically, of these 4 games, what are they like? Some of these games are like 50-50. Like, let's just hypothetically say there's 4 games and like you really like them winning 3, but like, hey, we're just gonna put them 2-2 over this 4-game stretch. Or like they're coming off the bye week. Like, just really understand each team's schedule that you're locking in. And then I would say for NFL solely, like I said, division winners are the big thing for me this year. I have a couple win totals. And then for the season awards, same thing as always, just looking at the team's talent, looking who's around them, understanding like what's their game plan. Like Colts, you can't take Matt Ryan to win MVP, for example. Like you have to understand the team, their philosophy, how they use certain people, and then also how the team's going to finish. Like it's rare for a team, almost in any sport, for a player on any team to win a season-long award that isn't on a pretty good team. Like rarely ever do you see a season winner come from, like hypothetically the Jaguars. Maybe a little bit more for like the rookie awards and like, rookie defensive player of the year, offensive player. Those can come kind of from wherever. But for these big boys, like AP, offensive, defensive offense, or why can't I talk? Offensive and defensive player of the year and the MVPs, like it has to be a team that's probably has a good chance of winning the Super Bowl, most likely a top 4 to 8 team. So those are just some things. And like, I would say don't try to throw a million different legs in these. Like if you do the division winners and pick a winner for all 8. Yeah, all 8. Like you can get some good odds. Like, but yeah, just don't throw too much. Understand the team, understand the schedule. Realistically, decide like, hey, where this team's gonna finish. And then if it's anyone offensively, you gotta understand the O line. You gotta understand where their O line is, where their movements, how many guys are they returning, what's their run blocking, pass blocking look like, and then also just like the weapons around them. But Futures are a tricky game. Like I said, no one really knows the future. You can just make an educated guess, cross your fingers, hope for no injuries, and then see where everything ends up at the end of the year.
Yeah. No, I think that's great insight. It's good to give people a couple of, again, tips and tricks that maybe you followed in the past. I think it's basically what you said is don't bet on a whim. Look deep, dig into it. If you're going to place money and have it sit for, 5-6 months, you got to make sure you're doing it smart. So I think that was awesome. I think that's a lot of the information that, even I'm looking for, even if it's not about me right now. Last question. I just want to, see if there's maybe a couple of your favorite bets for the NFL season that maybe you haven't already talked about already, that maybe you have that you're willing to give away. I know we've covered a lot, so there may not be much, but maybe a couple touch points that we forgot to hit.
Yeah, I think we went through most of them. Like I mentioned, like who I'm liking for offensive player of the year, and then comeback player of the year with McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry. And then for my favorite division winner, I don't want to give you a division winner that like I could say the Bucks. Oh wow, -270. Wow. But like I said, the Vikings +300 are interesting. I know you're not going to like this. I do like the Rams to win the division. I think Cardinals are going to take a step back, in my opinion. Seahawks are completely out of division. And then you're one-on-one against Trey Lance and O-line.
Yeah.
And who the Rams lose, realistically?
Yeah.
Von Miller. They only had him for half the year.
OBJ? Right.
OBJ. With added Allen Robinson.
Right.
My guy. So it's like, I don't know. I like the Rams, like the two I guess my probably two favorite though division winners would be the Colts at -115, and then the Bills at -220. Then I love the Bucks at -270 if you include that.
Yeah.
Rams, and then Vikings, Packers. I'm leaning Vikings with how much they've added over the offseason. New coach, new system in there. And then Cowboys, Eagles, it's a 50-50. No one's won the division back-to-back, I think, in like 10, 15 or something like that years. So Cowboys won it last year. I think their roster got worse. I think the Eagles got a lot better. It's going to be on if Jalen Hurts can take the next step. Yep. They got A.J. Brown helping them out a little bit. We'll see. And then, like I said, when it comes to AFC West and then the AFC North, and then all like those two divisions are just like
complete toss up.
Hey man, complete toss up. Like I said, if you're looking for a value pick, Raiders at +700, wild value play there. And then realistically, I think Ravens, Bengals, and Browns all have a pretty even shot to win that division. So if you're going to include those, I'll let you do the research. Whoever do their own research to decide who they think. But those two divisions are real tough. But like I said, love the Colts. I really love the Colts. Like I'm soloing that. I'm taking that. I'm putting that on all my futures. -115. I like the Colts a lot.
Awesome. Well, Tanner, thank you so much for coming back on. This was a blast. We ended up running a little bit over time, which is never a bad thing because that means the conversation is good. So I'm so happy we got you back on. Again, you can find him on Twitter at TFlyPicks. Follow his DubClub. Come on. This guy is for real. He's been on ESPN, right? I haven't been on ESPN. Like this is the real deal. We're getting to the big leagues these days. So Tanner, thank you so much. This was a great episode.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Anytime, happy to hop back on, especially for anything future or even weekly related. Bring me on the podcast. Always open to tossing out some picks. Like you said, follow my DubClub account, my Twitter, TFlyPicks, and looking forward to winning with y'all this fall.
Awesome. Thank you.